Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Introduction to Sound Healing. This is Mark Torgeson, and I'll be your host for the next I'm not sure how many how many videos we're going to make here, but it will be kind of a journey through my whole sound healing training. It's a parallel uh, a kind of exploration online to the training I've been doing in person and with hands-on uh, applications. So, welcome, and I thought I'd just kind of give you an idea of what got me started in this and my background, so you get a sense of where I'm coming from and the kind of the scope of the way that I approach sound healing. So, when I was about 11 years old, I started piano lessons. There's a fellow from the local music company that had rented band instruments and so forth. He came and gave a demonstration on lots of different instruments, flutes and saxophones, trumpets, and I think he played a little bit of everything. And I was just really pizzazed by all of that. I just thought, oh, this is just the best. And so soon, right after that, I started taking piano lessons. And I did that actually probably between 3 and 5 years. It wasn't that long that I was actually practicing and taking lessons. Uh, and after that time, I just started improvising on my own and making up songs and so forth. And around the time I was 14 or so, I started picking up flute. I bought uh, a transverse silver flute, started playing that, recorders. I had guitars, 12 string and mandolins. I played horn and orchestra, French horn, marching French horn. And of course, I was I have to say my most revered love was the piano keyboards. So um, there was never any question about what I was going to study in college, and I went directly into a music training program, and that took me to Mary Washington College in Fredericksburg, where I live now. And so my education was at Mary Washington and also Virginia Commonwealth University. And during that time, I studied strings, which is violin. I played French horn in the orchestra. I studied percussion, piano. That was my heaviest dose of training, um, and also classical guitar. So there's always been a wide interest in music and music makers and things that go bump at night. Um, and so eventually I got my degree, and let's see, I would say that in 1995, I had always wanted to create an album. So that was the launch of my first album, Between Mountains and Stars. And at this point, that was almost 30 years ago. And since then, there have been about 32 albums that I've recorded, performed, and produced that are out on Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, all the large distributors, and probably another 20 outside of that that I've produced and not put out on the larger commercial scale. And right now, I would say that I'm using Bandcamp the most. So you'll find my most recent work on Bandcamp. And all of this music and also sound healing, all these recordings have to do with transformation and personal expansion. It's really the spiritual path. I've always recorded and performed, and that's always been the driving force behind my music to actually get the music out there. So as I've been going through this process, using all the instruments at my disposal, I would say in the last 20 years, my wife and I have been doing a lot of work together, transformational work, and that would be Carol Fitzpatrick. And I would mostly play piano and keyboards. But what I noticed is, as even as a youth, people would come up and just gift me instruments. They, and it could be anything from a guitar to a flute to a gong or tuning forks or whatever. But in our transformational work, that's what would happen. People would gift me to Tibetan bowls and tuning forks and so forth. And so I had a chance to really use those and see how they worked in these transformational processes. And I soon came to understand that the people that were coming for this type of work and this type of experience were very gifted healers themselves. Whether they were trained or not, they just had this essence about them. So uh, I would have to call them the light workers, the light worker group, the healers and the paradigm changers, the shifters of society. And in the process, I saw how they worked, and the fact that they had this innate and natural healing ability just really inspired me because they really wanted to do more with sound, like I was doing. Uh, and so at some point, I started having the idea of teaching this, just not so much that it was important to know how to play something, but to give them the confidence for that. So that's what that's what I did. And back in around 2008, I started teaching sound healing, and have continued to do that ever since. And my programs have developed from a 2.5 day program to about a 12 day intensive, so altogether. And what I've done, and which is I think a little different from a lot of sound healers, is I've incorporated sacred geometry. I've incorporated music, and I've incorporated my background with the meridian systems and shiatsu with all of the sound healing protocols. So I'm drawing from body work. I'm drawing from my musician's perspective, and I'm drawing from the most recent aspect, which is the sacred geometry, which I feel is one of the most important pieces. And I've actually started putting that at the beginning of my programs. And tonight I'm going to share actually a slideshow that I use with my very introduction class with when I'm doing the hands-on in-person trainings. And I noticed that it doesn't have the sound healing at the very beginning like my manual does, but I will be getting into that probably in the next class here, in the next webcast, which will be 2 weeks from now, exactly 2 weeks. So that kind of gives you an idea of what this is going to be about. I'm going to, like I said, parallel what I teach and what I do in my regular in-body trainings. Um, and in our member portal, there are 20 videos which I've created, which go through the whole process of everything that I teach in my in-person trainings, and they're all uploaded and ready to go. And I will be adding also the text from my manuals to all of that. So basically, you're going to be getting what people come in person uh, during those 12 days, and uh, it's probably about a $2,000 expenditure for them. So so basically, except for the hands-on, that's basically what you're going to be getting and learning during this process. So the next webcast will be April the 2nd, which is exactly 2 weeks from now, Tuesday at 7 p.m. So hope to see you then. But in the meantime, let's watch this slideshow, and I'll give you a sense of what the perspective that I've gleaned from sound is. So, sound and hertz. Okay, so the basic premise is that really sound is the beginning of everything. It's the matrix from which everything evolves and arises. It's the formless energy of creation, the 0 point of unmanifested potential. To me, it's the Godhead that is not physicalized, and form arises from that sound, from that vibration. And I think the what you're seeing, this graphic, so beautifully represents that, because it's a kind of a combination of the waves that sound takes, and also light, because sound and light are very, very, very similar, especially in the higher realms. And when we say hertz, everything vibrates at a specific frequency, and hertz is a measurement of that frequency. So a hertz is hertz is a 1 cycle per second. That's what a hertz is. So if you take a guitar string and pluck it, you start at the center, it goes to the farthest point out, comes back to center, goes to the farthest point out on the other side, like a pendulum, and it comes back to center. That's 1 cycle. That's 1 cycle per second. If that only did that once, then that would be 1 hertz. Okay. Now, the human range of hearing can't go below about 20 hertz. So it has to be at least 20 hertz before you start to hear it. Okay. So vibration and frequency, the measurement is hertz. Our brain waves, this is another way that numbers and frequency are all tied together in geometry as well. And our states of consciousness are very tied in with frequency too. When we shift our vibration, we're able to actually see, feel, sense other realms that we would not be able to in a particular bandwidth of frequency. So, as human beings, we operate pretty much in the beta state. So when you're driving down the road, or doing some checkbook computations, between 12 and 30 hertz, that's considered the normal waking state and the beta state of consciousness. Now, when you get above that, 30 to 60, that's the gamma, and that's very, very high mental activity. And that's the state of genius. And we have quite a few geniuses in our midst right now that operate on those levels. But I would say that the people that meditate and really want to go deeper within, they actually lower their hertz rate. So the first state of consciousness below the beta state is the alpha state, and that's the state of daydreaming and very intuitive work, and that's between 8 and 12 hertz, and this is the brainwave frequency, which is measured usually with EEG machines. Below the alpha, there's the theta, and you've probably seen online, and there are many different apps now that you can download and purchase that will put you in that theta state. And this is what's considered the meditation or the shamanic states. There's a lot of drumming that happens in this, and that's between 4 and 8 hertz. The shamanic drumming usually is done with 5 beats per second, and that puts you into that theta state very, very quickly. And below that is the delta, the deep meditation, healing, and channeling state. And it's way, way down there. That would be considered rapid eye movement. And that's 4 hertz and down to zero point 0.5 hertz, half of a hertz. And the yogis that are able to stop their breathing and stop their heart from beating, these are some of the states that they attain with their meditations. Now, a friend of mine who's not around anymore, but she was a great healer, and she was put on an EEG machine. Her name was Virginia Light, by the way, and they figured out that she could be in the beta state and the theta state, which is the healing state, and even below that at the same time. So she would have two parallel states of consciousness going at the same time. And this is true of many healers and actually a lot of channels as well. They're able to maintain a day-to-day consciousness, an everyday consciousness, at the same time being able to project their awareness and understanding and intuitive abilities into very deep states. So here we have an Australian Aboriginal, and he's participating in a ceremony and playing didgeridoo. And I put this here because, well, for one thing, didgeridoo is one of my favorite instruments. and but it's also a very great trance instrument. And the Aboriginals, they've been playing this instrument for about somewhere between 25 and 35,000 years. There are cave paintings that are at least 25,000 years old. They've been carbon dated, and we know that they've been doing that for that long. They were probably the culture that has the most unbroken and unhampered by Western and modern influences in the world. They were kind of sequestered away in their own little island. They could do whatever they wanted, and so they they didn't advance technologically. They advanced spiritually, and their connection with the cosmos and the connection with the earth just really expanded out. And they actually only had two instruments that they played. One is the didgeridoo, and the other is a clapstick, and it's which is just a piece of wood that you beat on to keep a rhythm. But with the didgeridoo and the clapstick, they go into these 3-day ceremonies where they just sometimes dance around the fire, but play didgeridoo and get into these deep states of being able to vision the way forward, to see their connection with the cosmos, to see where the next water hole or food source was. And that particular instrument is it's so special in so many ways. It's actually a tree. It's in fact it's a medicinal tree. The oh heck, now I'm forgetting. The It's a medicinal tree that they go around and they tap like one would a cantaloupe, eucalyptus. That's what I was trying to remember. Um, and if it was hollow, which means that the termites had gotten in and eaten out the heartwood, they'd chop it down and then scrape out the termite guts and create a musical instrument out of it. So the same process has been going on for at least 30,000 years, and it really hasn't changed a bit. And really, really amazing states of consciousness and awareness that they've attained. Some of the other instruments of sound healing, drums, these are used by shamanic women and medicine women, men, all over in every culture that you can imagine. The drums have been, especially the frame drums like this one, that you can handle with your hand. Uh, they've been used so much for journeying, for shamanic healing work, along with rattles, which is in the second frame, and the more modern uh, tools are the crystal bowls, and they've been around for maybe 60 years. And here's a powwow drum. You can see it, the head is probably a buffalo hide, and you can see the little probably elk hooves there. Um, and again, drums they use the hide of an animal, so there's a consciousness there, and there's very that's an important piece in all the sound healing tools that you use. That whatever the instrument is made out of, there is that consciousness and that resonance and specific frequency and vibration within the instrument itself. Now here we have all instruments that are Tibetan, and Tibetans are really, I consider masters of sound and masters of consciousness, really. Uh, the Tibetan bell is used, and the tingshaws, and they're always a little slightly detuned, the Tibetan bowl, in their journey going inward into deep meditative states. And we've taken that and used it in sound healing to place on the body, and in doing so, it actually stimulates and activates different energy centers in the body. So some of the benefits of sound healing, and this list comes from many different sources. Some is personal, and some of it is channel sources. And I put a good bit of faith in our modern day channelers. I really feel like they do a tremendous service to the rest of us who don't have quite the same connection, but we're still looking for this higher information, higher knowledge. So the idea that it clears EMFs, and these are electromagnetic frequencies, that is something that's been given through channeling. Um, and it might be a little bit difficult to prove that, because when these microwaves or radio waves or Bluetooth waves or any number of the so many different types of waveforms that are kind of assaulting our physical systems, sometimes the EMFs get lodged in the physical. And uh, taking a crystal bowl or Tibetan bowl or a tingsha or Tibetan bell, that's a really good way of just uh, clearing that out of your energy system. So it also balances the energy system through natural sounds. Uh, One of the things that happens is past life regression, and I've had this happen to myself, and I've seen many of my participants regressed through use of sound. One particular person, she was lying there, and afterwards, I asked if she had anything she'd like to share, and or if there was anything unusual that happened. She said, "No, not really." But yeah, I guess there was. There was all of my female ancestors, and she said the ancestors on the female side gathered around me as you were playing, and they were putting their hands on me and healing different parts of my body and energy system. So she had I wouldn't call that a past life regression, but she was definitely having a like an ancestral healing. And this can happen because in sound, and with the right intention of the so-called healer, there's a portal that opens up, and it's very easy for beings from other realms to come in. And since we're so tied in with our ancestors, we've actually taken a lot of the 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 hit from the things that they did not heal. So they're very anxious to come in and help in ways that they can to clear their progeny, so to speak. So another thing is embodiment of the elements. So when we're doing sound healing, the elements come through, and I've noticed this especially with some of the elements tools that I use, like the sacred geometry harps, angel harps. Each one of these is tuned to specific elements. The five, there being five: the earth, air, water, fire, and ether. Okay. And relieving and releasing trauma, that absolutely happens. There was one yoga teacher that kind of positioned herself under a gong one evening. And as I was playing it, I noticed that her arm was all of a sudden shaking and vibrating. And afterwards, she said that during that time, all the pain from this car accident she had been in, and this was 2 years prior to that, um, she was starting to feel it kind of activate and then release. And she'd been living with that pain for about 2 years, and since the accident. And after that one little gong episode, she said half of the pain left. She came back 2 weeks later and had positioned herself again in front of the gong. The same thing happened with her arm, and afterwards she said all the pain is gone. And I've known this person for a while now, and she said it never came back. So this is the vibration. This was only one instrument that actually caused that release. So any of the instruments can do it, but that the gong is pretty interesting in that it has such a wide spectrum of vibration. There's many different frequencies in a gong. So any of those or all of those could have had the effect of really helping to release that trauma. And obviously she was ready as well. So shamanic journey, this happens especially with the voice and the drum, the shamanic drum. And again, there is a specific type of beat, theta rhythm that shamanic drummers use that will take people on quite some journeys. I'll share at some point some of the shamanic journeys that I've had, but it's actually taking on the shape and embodiment of other animals, and there it is, experiencing power animals. So again, we talked about the physical healing and seeing and experiencing sacred geometries. There was one particular sound healing event I did at the local library, public event, and I went through the whole uh, kind of arsenal of equipment that I had and instruments. And afterwards, a fellow came up and said, through that whole experience, I kept seeing triangles, and they were everywhere. and it's kind of funny because this was before the time that I started really studying sacred geometry and realizing the importance of the basic triangle, which is everything. It's really the most elemental and essential primal of all of the geometries, and it's the one geometry that's the most stable. So, recalibration of cosmic and earth energies. So we are a being, just like trees are, of cosmic origin and earth origin as well. So we're actually channeling cosmic energy and earth energies at the same time. And you know, the Earth is recalibrating its place in the cosmos now, and so are we. And since we are born of the Earth, we really need to follow the patterns of the Earth, and so we're constantly recalibrating with the Earth, and at the same time recalibrating with the heavens as well. And sometimes that process is not easy, especially in this crazy modern society we live in. Uh, so sound healing really helps that. It's it does it by actually stilling the mind, stopping the mind, so that the energies can flow freely. And we did talk about healing energy, healing injuries too. So this is one of the first harps. I love this picture because it's a turtle shell with two little antlers and some gut strings, and we don't know what the tones of this ancient harp were, but uh, there are instruments like this that they still play in Greece that have origins that reach back a couple thousand years. And I say we don't know what the notes are, but we have actually a pretty good idea because some of those were spelled out, and we'll get into that later in the course. Uh, but it's very similar to the major scale and the minor scale that we play today. That these are very, very world culture uh, scales that seem to be very omnipresent. And so those early Greek and Grecian tones were probably, believe it or not, similar to what we're playing today. And that's where the musical part of all this comes in as well. So this looks a lot different from the turtle shell harp, but again, we have some of the same kind of intervals and scales that are used. This is particularly an angel harp, and an angel harp is something I've been working on for the last 4 years. It's a repurposed um, it's a repurposed harp. It's a Oh, I just lost the name. It's an auto harp, a repurposed auto harp, and I've retuned it to sacred geometries. So surprisingly, the sacred geometry intervals and the frequencies, they sound very good to the ear because they follow that pattern that I was just talking about. And so they don't sound so off from modern music, uh, which is actually slightly off anyway. But everybody that actually experiences this, they don't forget it very quickly. So here's an instrument that's been played for thousands of years too. It's a Japanese bell, and these were used by Japanese monks, and they would play the bell and they play their bamboo flutes and enter these deep states of meditation. And again, here we have this meditative kind of predilection with sound healing, it bringing you down into those deeper states. And I would say that that's the main difference between sound healing and music. Whereas music tends to expand the energy body out and put you through many different emotions, and you can express joy, you can express sadness, and so forth. But it's an outward expansion, whereas sound healing kind of focuses the attention and the awareness inside. So it actually helps to still the mind, still the expansion it goes more into a contraction, an inner contraction. So kingdoms of consciousness. We start off with the mineral kingdom, which includes the crystals. We have the plant kingdom, we have the animal kingdom, and human, the devic, which are the fairies, the divas, the angelic, which are, of course, the angels, and then the solar and cosmic, which are beyond the embodiment, and it's pure energy, pure consciousness. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that all of these realms are available through sound healing because we get into such rarefied states of consciousness. The sound, uh, is able to still our normal wandering mind enough to where we can actually uh, get into these other realms of consciousness and match our vibration, our frequency with theirs. So the crystal kingdom is one of the, I think, the most important one. Uh, I had this experience with a crystal, I would have to call crystal intelligence, many years ago during a meditation. And in one just flash of a moment, it showed me what it does and its place in this earth realm. So the crystalline intelligence has no form. It's just a knowingness. And because I had attained a fairly deep state in my meditation, and because I just love crystals, I've always loved crystals, held them close. Uh, it was there, and because I also have a natural curiosity about how the crystals work with the energy body and the earth and so forth. But what it did, it showed me that the crystalline intelligence goes where it's called to go. And so in the construction of the earth, it was actually embedded into the matrix, the very core of the earth. It's the crystalline matrix. And it serves as really the foundation, the stabilizing foundation of our earth. So there are crystals all over the earth uh, that provide that stability for the earth plane. But the crystals are in everything, that's in our body. There's not a cell in our body that's not crystalline in nature. If you think of snowflakes, every one different, every one six-sided, but those are all crystals. So our whole reality is surrounded by this this crystalline intelligence that has so it has crystallized, so to speak, into this form that you see here, and in other forms, like this is deep inside the earth. You can see the size of the crystals compared to the persons, and our whole inner earth is full of the matrix of these crystals, and so the next after that, there's the plant kingdom. And the plants have a very strong relationship with humanity. We tend to take advantage of plants, but it's not supposed to be that way. We're just kind of dumb. In some ways, the plants, because they don't have free will that we do, they just stay true to their God nature. And I put this particular plant, which is of course bamboo, here because it has a kind of a cult like significance in the East. They just about worship it. It's used for food, it's used for shelter, it's used for musical instruments. Just about anything you can think of, uh, bamboo is used for. And I was reading a person just the other day. He said that he lived down in Tennessee. He loves bamboo and he plants it all over the place. And he said as a boy he would go and sit in bamboo groves, and it had such a beautiful resonance that he's always loved it. And people that are in the know about bamboo, they have that feeling, they have that special connection with it. Um, so here we are back to the eucalyptus plant medicine didgeridoo. Uh, and again, all plants have their own particular vibrational stamp, and they all have a specific type of medicine that they impart, or can impart to humanity. And here we have the shakuhachi bamboo, um, which is very almost cult-like, and the people that adhere to this music and the fact that it's made out of bamboo. And here we have spirit animals and or power animals, and these present themselves during sound healing sessions. And that's one of the aspects that I kind of have always tried to impart with the people that are studying this, that it's such a deep it's such a deepening of consciousness that you have to be able to uh, delve into those realms and be able to explain them, uh, to be able to work with sound in a very good way. In other words, if you're not adept at doing this kind of traveling, you're going to be in trouble. and and what I've found is that, at least in my experience as in teaching sound healing, it's the healers, it's the travelers, it's the people that really get vibration and what it does to the consciousness and your ability to travel, and thus see the power animals, see the spirit animals, and see the consciousness that's just beyond the veil. And so uh, you know, the people that are drawn to sound healing have this innate natural ability to really work with those types of energies and those types of realms. The Black Panther, during one of my sessions, a chiropractor laid down and he said, as soon as I hit the first little crystal bowl, this Black Panther came up from behind him and laid down by his side and stayed there the whole time. and I asked him, "Oh, were you intimidated by that?" He said, "No, that's my power animal. That's happened before." But you know, the that just that one note and that very initial impact opened the field up for him to be able to see that his power animal was right there with him. And I've had bulls come in during meditations as well. They're very curious, and they're not like humans at all. There's lots of ways that the power animals really present themselves. And, in the human kingdom, we have such a wide range of consciousness and awareness and vibrational frequencies. We have anything from the military to the ascended masters and everything between. And every level or tier, and I don't mean that in a way to judge, but every strata of frequency, there you'll find a different type of energy, you know, and so we have the whole gamut here. And above the human kingdom is the fairy kingdom, the Devic kingdom, and some people see fairies. They're all around us. These, we think of Thumbelina and Tinkerbell. But my experience with the fairies is that they're actually very powerful creators. They're like God's little ways of creating life and creating wind and fire and all the elements. They're the purveyors of change. And above the fairies are the angels and the archangels, which are around us, protecting, helping us. And then beyond that are really the unspeakable. I think there's no words to really uh, describe the the cosmic and the solar realm. I would, if anything, I would say that that crystalline intelligence really resides here. And sacred geometry is another piece that uh, I'm going to get into, not during this session, but probably the next session. And I was really taken and quite surprised by the relationship between sacred geometry and sound and music. And like I said, I started studying that about 4 years ago during the shutdown, and started tuning the angel harps to sacred geometry frequencies and all the Platonic solids elements frequencies. And as far as I know, I'm the only person that's actually uh, explored it in that way, and I really kept going with it because the sounds were so amazingly magnificent and really shifted the body. It just brought this feeling of alignment and joy immediately to it. And I really feel like it opens up the connection with the angelic realm as well. So we'll talk more about that and angel harps and the way that frequencies are tied to geometry and music as well. I started out with music. When I started to do sound healing, I had to kind of unlearn and just really slow down my desire to play so many notes, into just focusing maybe on just one sound or focusing really. There's as much in the silence in sound healing as there is in the sound. So, but one of the things that I uh, have found is that music does follow the laws of sacred geometry, and which are very cosmic. And that is it. That is the totality of my slideshow. And like I said, I'll be back in 2 weeks exactly on the 2nd. I believe that's what it is, April the 2nd, Tuesday at 7 p.m. And I'm pretty sure that I'll have a sacred geometry slideshow, and that's very specifically related to sound. I don't consider myself a geometer, but I have delved pretty deeply into the sound aspects of sacred geometry. But at any rate, I'm going to say goodbye now, as far as the webcast goes, but I'm going to open it up for any questions. If anybody would like to ask any questions. So thank you very much, and see you in 2 weeks.